What is up, my friends? I hope you guys had a great St. Patrick's Day, and I hope today's hangover wasn't that bad for you. Welcome to another episode of A Taboo Life, where everyone has a story to tell. I'm your host, Drew Franks, or Frank for short, and I want to thank you guys again for listening. Don't forget to check out the website, ataboolife.com, where you can explore some great content such as short stories, poems, because I am that sappy, other episodes of podcasts, and some highly original articles, one of which has been getting a lot of hits on the website. It's titled, Swipe Right for the Old-Fashioned, an argument for abandoning online dating. All of it's free on the website. Check it out at ataboolife.com. And also, don't forget to subscribe. If you like this show, just hit the subscribe button and you'll get the episodes as soon as they come out. Today's guest is Miss Margarita Rolon. She is a retired public school teacher, a Puerto Rican immigrant, and my grandmother. This is a very personal episode because I felt like my grandmother has a story to tell, and I wanted her story to be heard. She's the only person that's really been there in my life. I didn't come from a good childhood, and she's the one that's been there consistently. I love her, and I was hoping that this episode may have helped her feel better too. I know she's been down because she's getting older, and I'm starting to become aware how that she may not be here forever. So I want her story to be told. So this is, like I said, this is a very personal episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Alright, we're live. Alright guys, I want you to give a warm welcome to a very special woman to me. This is my grandmother. I'm going to have her introduce herself.
Mi nombre in English?
Yes.
My name is Margarita Rolon. Rolon, after I got married, before I was Margarita Torres Ortiz. I was born in Puerto Rico on September 27, 1940, in the town of Bayamon, in the countryside. I went to high school in Dr. St. Augustine Stoll's school. And from there, I graduated in 1959. And I had a very small scholarship to go to the University of Puerto Rico, but because it was so small, only $59 for the year, I could not accept it, and I decided to move to New York City. So I got in New York City on August 30 of 1959 to live with stepsister in the borough of Brooklyn. From there, I was used as a maid by her. And I told her that I needed to get a job. So I met a young man that used to live in the same building, and he was the foreman in a factory where they made handbags, and he got me a job there, and I worked from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, from Monday to Friday. At that time, the pay was $1 an hour. And I worked in that factory for 9 years. And at the same time, trying to help my family in Puerto Rico. I was making $40 a week. And from $40 a week, I used to send them $20 and keep $20 for myself. At that time, the subway was only 5 cents. So it was okay. And in 1961, I met Roberto Rolon, who became my we became engaged, and in 1962 we got married, and in 1963 my daughter Evelyn was born. And but it was a very, very rocky relationship. He used to hit me. He used to abuse me. He was a cab driver, and he used to have different women, and he was very, very, very abusive. So I decided to leave him. So I moved out with the help of people from a Baptist church that they helped me. And I got my own apartment. I moved out with Evelyn, who was only almost 2 years old. And I began working in a factory that used to make the light bulbs for the airplanes. But that was a part-time job, from 5 o'clock in the evening to 11 o'clock at night. So my neighbor used to watch Evelyn for me. But in the daytime, I found a job as educational aide in school, PS 116, in the neighborhood of Knickerbocker in Brooklyn, New York. And I worked there for about 10 years, helping in the classroom and doing attendance and doing patrol in the hallways and the cafeteria. And the principal liked me very much, and he convinced me to go back to school. So I decided to go back to school. I enrolled in the New York City Community College in Brooklyn, and I began my AA degree. And there, because I had to go part-time, it took me 5 years to finish the AA degree. And after I finished my AA degree, I transferred to Brooklyn College, my alma mater. In Brooklyn College, I started my BA in education. And I continued working with the school system. And I found a transfer to Maxwell Vocational High School as educational associate, working in the classroom with ESL teacher. And I spent 10 long years to get my BA. Finally, I graduated, and the principal, she helped me to get through the interview with the Board of Education to become an ESL teacher. That was Miss Marion Lucchino at that particular time, the principal of the high school. And I passed the exam. I became an ESOL teacher. I continue working on my master's at Brooklyn College. And it took me 5 long years to finish the master's. And finally, I finished everything. And I worked at Maxwell as a regular teacher for 25 years until I retired in 1962.
So, why did you leave Puerto Rico? What was the major motivation?
It was, we were very poor, very extremely poor. We were 7 in the family, 7 kids. My father was a disabled person. And my mother, she used to wash clothes for a rich family and do some cooking. And we were in extremely poverty. And I always wanted to have a better life. So I was the second in the family because my oldest sister, Teresa, got married at the age of 16, and I left the house, and I knew I had to look for something better because I always wanted to have an education, to complete an education.
Well, tell everyone the story of how great-grandpa, your father, lost his leg.
Oh, there was a huge, he had been enrolled in the army for the first World War I. And he was sent to Panama, and then the ship was returned to Puerto Rico. There was a huge hurricane, and I don't remember exactly the name of the hurricane at that particular time, but he was hurt by during the hurricane by a piece of like steel with a nail that got into his leg. And because at that time it was in the almost at the end of the beginning of the 1900s, so there were no transportation. All they used were horses to get to the nearest hospital. The nearest hospital was in San Juan, and this was in Bayamon.
Then he got hurt by saving a few people.
He tried to save some people, and then
what was the reason behind it, or the story behind that part?
Huh?
What was the cause of him trying to save people? What happened?
Because there was a hurricane, and people they didn't know where to go, and they didn't know. So he built like what they call in Puerto Rico, they call a barraca, which is like a shelter made of wood and palm trees, and they put like chains all over, and they stick that in the ground, and he helped some people to get there to find shelter, but unfortunately he got hurt and his leg got infected. So they took him to the hospital, which was miles and miles away by horse. There was no transportation at that particular time. By the time they got there, he had developed gangrene. So they had to amputate his foot, and then the gangrene continued, and they had to amputate the leg. It was the left leg up to above the knee, and that's when they were able to stop the gangrene. And he was an amazing person because people love him, they respect him. Even with one leg, he was able to work the land, to build a house with very, very minor equipment, utensils, and everything. And he used to work for other people, doing jobs that nobody else would do, like working in a sugarcane field, and with one leg, and he received an honorary discharge from the army, and he was very, very, very proud, and that he did not serve a long time, but he felt very proud. He was always very proud of that discharge, and that he has served in the Army of the United States. So he always was instilled the desire for us to learn, to get educated, because he did not get that. He was not an educated person. My father did not know how to read or write, and he had to sign everything making a cross because he could not sign his name. And but he used to buy the newspaper when things got better in Puerto Rico. He used to buy the newspaper, and he used to ask me to read to him the news, and tell him what was going on, and read everything. And that's what I love to read so much, because the way he did it. And he loved horses. We used to have a horse at home that he used to ride, and he loved horses. So his favorite pastime was to play horses, and he used to ask me the name of the horses that they name in the newspaper that were going to be the first and the second and the third and so on, and tell me the names of the horses so he could say, okay, I'm going to bet 50 cents to this one and 25 cents to that one. Okay. Now I know what I'm going to do. And when we didn't have television, and we have like a small radio was run with batteries at that time. So we used to sit next to the radio and listen to the horse races on the radio. And he got very excited, very, very, very excited. So we live a very, very, very poor, simple life, but full of histories, because when my father finally died, he was known all over the neighborhood, and people came from all over to pay respects. And because he loved this country so much, he was treated very, very nicely at the Veterans Hospital. That's why he died. And he received a very, very special funeral. They stopped the traffic all over, from our house in the country all the way to the veterans cemetery, and that's where he's resting. And I never forgot that, because we have protection from the police and everybody, and National Guards, and he was received with honors over there. And he didn't even go to war because the war stopped by the time his ship got to Panama. So, but he was very proud. And he died a very proud person.
What was the biggest challenge when you moved to New York? How was it? How was the culture shock?
Well, at the beginning when I got to New York, that was in 1959. There was a lot of, I would say, prejudice more than ever in New York, especially against Puerto Ricans. There were gangs, groups in the lower Manhattan and the Bronx. And that was the time when Puerto Ricans groups were fighting for control of neighborhoods with Italians, especially with Italians. And there was a lot of prejudice. And it was kind of culture shock for me because I did not know the language. I knew some English because I had a very good English teacher in high school. She had been educated in outside Puerto Rico, and she went back to Puerto Rico, and she was my English teacher. And because I liked the language so much, I learned a lot from her. And she used to give me books in English to read at home. And I remember Lorna Doone and The Miracle Worker and a couple of other books that I read and when I was in high school. And I knew some English, not enough like to carry conversation, but enough to understand what was going on. But because my English was limited, I remember the first few months that I spent working in that factory, when we had the break for lunch, all I used to eat was hamburgers and French fries. That was it for months and months and months. And because I didn't know what else to ask for. I didn't know how to pronounce, the but it was kind of culture shock, but it was okay. I managed to survive.
How did you meet your first husband?
Oh, he used to visit my stepsister's house on Fridays. I think it was Fridays, yeah. That they used to have like a get together, and her husband and a couple of people from the building, and they used to have like dominoes, games, and he used to come and visit them. He knew them.
And what was the first interaction?
Well, at that particular time, I didn't know that he had been married and he had 3 kids, but he had abandoned them. I mean, and he had abandoned them, and his ex-wife got custody of the 3 boys. It was 3 boys. I didn't know that. I found out that much, much later when everything came out, when we were getting ready to get married, because he needed to be clear from the courts, because she took him to court for child support. He was not giving them child support. So that's when everything came out.
How did you meet Grandpa?
Who, Pedro?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was, Evelyn was 12 years old. And his sister used to have beauty salon, and I used to go to her for my haircuts and so on. And I met him in her salon.
What was the first interaction? What did he say? What did he do?
Oh, just, she introduced me to him. She said, "This is my brother." But she didn't tell me that he was married. And anyway, I was single, and Evelyn was 12 years old. And we were just friends for a long time, until finally he had a very nasty separation and very, very difficult divorce from his first wife, and then we got together. But it was very, very painful for him, because he loved her very much. He really loved that woman, and he loves his children, and he didn't want to leave them, but he was forced to leave them, because he caught her with another man, and he went, like, he lost his mind, and so he tried very, very hard to save his marriage, but he couldn't save it. It was too late. She fell in love with that man, and so they decided to get a divorce. So she kept the children. He continued helping them through everything, school, college, everything, weddings. He paid for everything for them. He loved his children very, very much, and he loved that woman forever. I mean, that was his first love, according to him, and that was the person that he thought that he was gonna be with for the rest of his life, but it didn't happen.
What made you fall in love with him?
He was very kind. Pedro was a very, very kind person, and he loved his mother. Oh, he loved her so much, and he was very, very kind to his brothers and sisters. He used to hug them with everything. He never complained. And he loved Evelyn. And when he met Evelyn, Evelyn was like another daughter to him, because he could not be with his two daughters. So Evelyn was like a daughter to him, and he loved her so much, and protect her and guide her, and he was a very, very kind person.
What was the hardest part about raising mom by yourself?
Oh boy. What? Leaving her with a babysitter at the beginning when she was small. There was a elderly couple living in the same building on the floor below me, and they were so kind and so nice. So they used to watch him. And then the lady next door to me, when I had the evening job, the day job and the evening job, she was so kind also. And she said, "I'm going to watch her. Don't worry. She will be fine." And she was a nice lady. And she said, "You don't have to pay me. You don't have to pay me. I'll watch her. She can be here, and I will take care of her." And then I have my best friend who moved from Puerto Rico. She died. And she lived with me for about 3 years. So at that time, Evelyn would stay with her. So I I had no problems with that because I knew she was safe and she was protected, and I used to come home and feed her and immediately go to my other job. And by the time I got home, she was already sleeping because the next day I had to take her to school in the morning, and then from there go to my other job. And it was very, very, very hard, very hard.
Why did you decide to become a teacher?
Well, I like my teachers. All my teachers in Puerto Rico, they were good. They were good. They were great people, and they instill in me the desire to read, especially read and read and read and read, and I like the way they were in the classroom, and I really, really admire. I cannot complain of any teacher that I have because they were all great, and I admire what they did with very, very limited resources, materials at that time, and making practically a very, very, very small salary, but they were there every day, rain or shine or whatever. And I really admire them. And I always said, when I get the opportunity, I'm going to. At first, I didn't go into education because when I started college, I said I'm going to go into sociology. So I took a lot of courses in sociology. And before I graduated from the New York City Community College, my counselor called me and said, you know something? I don't advise you to continue with this. I advise you to go into education because you are too sensitive. And if you become a social worker, you're not going to survive. When you go out there, the problems that you're going to encounter out there are humongous. So I advise you to switch and go into education. And after I was almost finished, I switched into education. And I followed his advice. I said, well, I like teaching. And anyway, when you are a teacher, you're also a social worker because kids come to you with all kind of problems, especially when you work in a ghetto. I work in a ghetto. I did not go to a prime high school, upper class, nothing. No, I was working with poor kids that were surrounded by all kind of problems. And besides teaching, I did social work with them also. So it didn't bother me at all.
Do you ever miss New York?
Oh, yeah.
What parts of New York do you miss? Or what part of New York do you miss?
Well, I miss the neighborhood where I used to live. I used the neighborhood because it was mixed neighborhood. In that neighborhood, we have Puerto Ricans, Haitians, Jamaicans, white people, a couple of Italians. It was a mixed neighborhood. It was a nice neighborhood, and we all knew each other, and I really miss that neighborhood. I never been back, and I don't think I will ever will. But I don't know what it looks like now. But it was a good neighborhood.
What was the hardest thing about moving here to Florida?
Well, the hardest thing was live in New York, especially changing the neighborhood, the food. I love New York's pizza and Chinese food. My God, nothing like that. Nothing like New York pizza and Chinese food. And that was very difficult here. So, but the weather is beautiful and I love it. So, but that was the hardest thing.
Okay, I'm going to ask you these questions for everyone that's a first-time listener. These questions are meant to show a different part of a person. I have various guests from different backgrounds on this show, and not everyone may agree with their lifestyle or their beliefs. But these questions are supposed to show that another side of a person, that a side that we can all relate to. That no matter how much you could disagree with someone or dislike someone, we all share a story. We could all relate to another person. So this is what these questions are for, to show a different side to a person. So let's get started. Given the choice of anyone in the world from any time period, who would you want as a dinner guest and why?
I did not hear that.
Given the choice of anyone in the world from any time period, who would you want as a dinner guest and why?
Who do I want as
a dinner guest?
Oh my God, I would love to have ex-President Obama.
Why?
I admire him a lot. To me, he's a sweet, kind, honest person. And I like the way he talks. I like the way that he conducts himself. I love the way he is with his family. I think oh my goodness, that would be a great honor.
What would constitute a perfect day for you?
Well, just after I do everything clean and do all the chores that I'm supposed to do or I want to do, just relax and watch TV.
If you could change anything about the way you were raised, what would it be? If you could change anything about the way you were raised, what would it be?
I would not change anything. I was born extremely poor and raised extremely poor with a lot of dignity. And I am very proud of my heritage. I'm very proud of my parents. I'm very proud of where I come from. And that is something that will stay with me forever.
Okay. If you wake up tomorrow and gain any power or ability, so any superpower or anything like that, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow. I would love to wake up and be watching this world from another dimension and see what is going on and how I would like to help somehow change some things that are going on now. But I would love to see that from the outside of this atmosphere.
What conspiracy theories do you believe in?
What?
What conspiracy theories do you believe in? Like conspiracy theories like that for example, let's say the Russians were the ones who killed Kennedy. that type of. That's what a conspiracy theory is.
There are so many. There are so many. I would say there's so many atrocities that have happened. So that it's just so hard to when you think about them. You take, for example, the Holocaust and what happened to the Jews, and a lot of people nowadays still say that never happened, and we know that it really, really happened. I met a couple of people in New York who had been in concentration camps, and I know because they showed me the marks that they have in on their arms, the numbers. So that is one of the things that I'm always thinking about. Besides all the atrocities that have happened and are still happening now, right now, all over the world.
When was the first time you fell in love, and how did it happen?
Oh my goodness. Oh, that was high school. I never, and I remember his name. He used to play the guitar, and his name was, we used to go to the same church, and he used to play in the chorus, the guitar. We were both in high school, and his name was Ismail. He died a couple of years ago of a heart attack. I met him again when my mother died, and but it was just one of those teenage adventures, just high school.
When was the first time you had your heart broken?
By him, by Ismail, because he fell in love with another girl from the church.
If you're going to wake up tomorrow with no memories except for one, which one would you keep?
Which one would I? I just don't want to forget my family. I cannot. I want to remember them, all of them. I can picture myself not being able to recognize them.
What was the most embarrassing moment in your life?
Ooh, embarrassing. Embarrassing. I don't remember any embarrassing moment. I really don't.
That's a good thing then. What was the most terrifying moment in your life?
Terrifying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. This is really something. When I was living in New York, and I had not married yet. I moved from my stepsister's apartment with my aunt who was living in the Bronx, and I had to work in Brooklyn, and I had to take the number 6 train to go to the Bronx at 5:00, and winter time is already very, very dark. And one particular day when I got off from work, I took the 6th train, And this black guy followed me, and I knew that he was going to do something to me, and I was scared to death. And I kept walking, and I was walking very fast, and he was walking fast also, and there was nobody. So the only thing that got me was there was a bodega, those small neighborhood stores. So I got into that bodega, and I told the man said, he saw me, he said, "What's going on?" I said, "Someone is following me. Someone is going to hurt me." And he came out from the counter, and he had a knife, and he said, and when he opened the door, the guy was standing outside, and he said, I said, "That's him." So the man took running, and he followed him just for half a block. So he came back, and he told one of his workers, he said, "Take her with my aunt's house was about the next block." So he said, "Walk with her and take her until she gets up the stairs." And so he did, and the guy kept running. I knew he was going to do something. I knew he was going to do something to me. So when I got there, I was crying, and my aunt got very upset and said, "What's going on?" And so I explained to her. She said, "Oh, from tomorrow on, you stay in the subway. You don't get out. Just stay there on the platform, and your uncle, my aunt's husband, that we call him uncle, said he's going to be there to pick you up. He's going to be there waiting for you. So you don't leave that platform. You stay there." So, and I did that until I lived with them for about a year. So, but I was very, very, I knew that meant I probably would not be alive today. God knows what he had in mind.
What happened to the story about the bat? Mom told me you were attacked once by a bat. You got caught in your hair?
I don't remember that story.
I remember somebody as a kid told me that you were attacked by a bat. And got stuck in your hair. I might have thought it was someone else then.
Mm.
What are your deepest held beliefs?
My deepest?
Mm-hmm.
What? My deepest?
Held beliefs.
Health?
Held beliefs. Your deepest belief.
That I believe?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just believe in I believe in some people. Not all, but in some people. And I believe in God. I just you can trust everybody, but there's some people that you believe in them because they have been honest with you and good to you, and you can trust them. So
okay, so if money was not a concern, what would be your wildest dreams?
Travel all over the world. All over.
Which countries would you want to visit?
Oh boy, I would love to visit Japan, Italy, Spain, and Hawaii.
Why those countries?
Well, the food. Number one is the food. And number two, the culture. And number three, the people, the different kind of people that they have, and how they interact with you. So as a tourist, and I would love to have some kind of connection.
What is your most treasured memory?
My most treasured memory is when Evelyn was born. We were alone. We were, and when I first saw her, she looked so, oh my God, different, and she had like a large bump on the side of her head, and I thought that her head was a little bit deformed, but the doctor said that was okay. But she kept me going.
If you knew you were going to die in 1 year, would you change anything about the way you were living, and why?
No, nothing. I would not change anything. I will keep doing what I'm doing and just living the way I live. It doesn't concern me.
Okay. What's the biggest sacrifice you've made in your life?
The biggest sacrifice?
Mm-hmm.
Oof. Leaving home in Puerto Rico. Being away practically all by myself, living with strange new people that I barely knew. And that was a humongous sacrifice. And getting adjusted.
Okay, this is the last question, and this is a question I ask to everyone. It's a 2-part question, and it's a very deep question. What is the worst thing you have ever done in your life? And what is the best thing you have ever done in your life?
The worst thing that I have done probably was getting a divorce from Pedro. I didn't have the patience to keep going. I couldn't take the pressure from his children. It was too much already. Too many years of constant. They never liked me. They never approved after 25 years of marriage. And I think I should have just not give up and just stay there until the end. And he I think in a way that I did not help him enough at the end of his life. So, and the second part of the question is,
what's the best thing you have done in your life?
Well, I guess having the courage to move by myself at the age of 18 and just hoping for a better life and just reaching and accomplish my dreams. I'm very proud of, in spite of everything that I did, and I'm proud that I contribute to the lives of quite a few students that I helped, and I know that they succeeded And I was there for them not only as a teacher, but like a second mother, like a counselor, like everything. And I'm proud of their achievements. So I'm glad for that.
Okay. All right, guys. This is the end of the episode. I want to thank you guys again for listening. Come check out the website, atabooolife.com, where you can read some interesting articles, short stories, poems, because I am that sappy. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.